When God took down an army alone at midnight, the shocking truth you never knew the night was electric. It was as if the world held its breath, waiting for something unbelievable to happen. Under a sky thick with rolling black clouds, a whisper spread through the air, a chilling reminder of an ancient tale just waiting to be retold. A single figure lingered at the edge of a solitary battlefield, and as the clock struck 12, hearts pounded with dread. They say God can move mountains, but this was something different. An entire army was soon to be toppled, and by forces unseen. Strange, glowing lights flickered in the distance, thousands of them, shimmering with an otherworldly hue against the deep ink of the night. Soldiers glanced at each other, eyes wide with confusion, uncertainty bubbling between them like an impending storm. What were they? Some called it magic, others blamed fatigue or fear, but everyone accepted something was gravely amiss. Even the wind held its tongue, each gentle gust replaced by an unsettling stillness. It was a night unlike any other, and it pulsed with the electricity of the unknown, but as suspicions grew, a shadowy figure emerged from the fog, cloaked in mystery. He moved silently, each step whispering secrets of the ages, a being who had seen the rise and fall of kingdoms. His eyes glowed with an intensity that could melt hearts of stone. What was his purpose here? Who was he, and did he bring salvation, or devastation? Nervous murmurs among the soldiers rose into a crescendo of fear. What if the words hung heavy in the air? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The atmosphere thickened, each heartbeat echoing louder against the drums of war. In the valley below, restless soldiers sat uneasily, eyes drawn back to their commanding officer. But he too seemed entranced by the glow emerging in the distance. Then it happened. A deafening silence. The air turned sharp, stinging, as if the heavens themselves prepared for battle. Suddenly, a roar erupted from the sky, a sound that shook souls and rattled bones. What was it? Thunder? A divine declaration? Or something far worse? The figure in the fog lifted a hand, and in that moment, the commander felt a spine-chilling freeze. It wasn't just the eerie quiet, it was a knowing, a fear that penetrated deep, clenching his heart like a vice. What power this dark figure wielded! The soldiers could hardly breathe as panic seized them. The glowing lights were now a sea of brilliant hues, swirling with intensity. Fear turned to horror as they realized the truth: they were not alone. Something ancient and powerful was coming for them, and they could do nothing to stop it. What fate awaited the assembled soldiers in the heart of the night? Would they face annihilation, or discover the strength in unity as this strange event unfolded? The tension hung palpably, thicker than the fog itself, as questions danced in the air, unanswered. The silence broke like glass, and in that moment, chaos erupted. Soldiers screamed, instincts kicking in as they scrambled for their weapons, eyes darting to the source of the glowing lights that swirled around them like hungry spirits. The commander raised his hands, trying to gain control, but his voice faltered against the rising wave of terror. "No! Stand your ground!" he shouted, but it was as if the words were swallowed whole by the unseen force approaching. The spirits, bright and unforgiving, danced in a frenetic rhythm above the battlefield. Each flicker seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of its own, resonating with the raw fear that coursed through the veins of every man and woman present. Then, out of the swarm, a piercing beam shot through the ominous darkness, striking the earth mere feet from the commander. The explosion of light unveiled a figure unlike anything anyone had ever seen, a celestial warrior carved from light itself, sword raised high, glowing with divine purpose. The soldiers fell back, stumbling over each other as they tried to retreat from the divine wrath materializing before them. "What is this?" A soldier gasped, his voice laced with disbelief, while another clutched his head, choking on the pressure that enveloped them. They were trapped in a nightmare, and the dawn seemed a million miles away. In an instant, the warrior descended upon the battlefield, the very air shimmering as though the universe itself quaked with its arrival. "You come here for glory, but I offer you truth." Its voice thundered, resonating deep within their souls, shaking the core of their belief systems. What is glory without honor? What is a battle without just cause? The commander, heart racing and mind racing, felt sweat bead at his brow. "What do you want from us?" He dared to ask, even as his instincts screamed for him to flee. "Your hearts. Your judgments," the warrior replied, and suddenly, the lights surrounding them morphed into reflections of their deepest fears and regrets. Ghosts of decisions made and lives lost flickered in the air like shadows, each image a dagger to their souls. "You are not here to fight your enemy," the voice boomed. "But an enemy far greater lurks within." The soldiers clung to their weapons, eyes glazed with fear and shame. The revelation hit them harder than any physical blow. Their battles were not just against men, but the darkness within themselves. Whispers of doubt and despair climbed into their minds, growing louder, threatening to drown out any semblance of courage. A young soldier, barely out of his teens, dropped his sword, falling to his knees. "What have we become?" he cried, tears streaming down his dirt-streaked face. "We're nothing but a wave, a mindless tide." "Then become the change," the warrior roared. With each syllable, the air crackled, the power electrifying, a summons to rise above their flawed natures. Yet, the soldiers remained paralyzed as shock gripped them. In that raw moment, purpose clashed with uncertainty. The choice between surrendering to fear or stepping into the light was theirs alone. As the atmosphere charged with the weighty decision, the commander found his voice again. "We can change," he proclaimed, strength finding its way through the fear. "We have to believe we can." But before answers could coalesce into a plan or hope could be born from despair, the glowing warrior unleashed a blinding flash of light radiant, blurring all vision, tearing through the darkness. The soldiers shielded their eyes, hearts pounding as reality shifted like sand under their feet. When the flash faded, silence returned like a suffocating shroud. Where they once stood, solid ground had morphed into an endless void of uncertainty. Beneath them, the ground shook again, not with a force of nature, but something deeper. What lay ahead, salvation or doom? The commander gasped, something unsettling creeping into his thoughts as he wondered, did they truly have the power to shape their fates, or was the warrior merely a harbinger of their inevitable collapse? As shadows loomed larger in the recesses of their hearts and questions of loyalty pulsed like a live wire, each soldier was left with a chilling realization: the night was only beginning. And it would demand a reckoning. The silence was piercing, an eerie stillness that pressed against their ears, wrapping around their trembling bodies like a cold embrace. The soldiers stood, suspended in time, staring into the void beneath them. It felt as though the universe held its breath, waiting for someone to break the spell. But it was the commander's heart that raced, pounding in his chest like a wild creature trying to escape a cage. "What now?" he murmured, half to himself. The light had vanished, leaving behind a darkness so thick it felt tangible, like a shroud draped heavily across their shoulders. Slowly, as if the ground had regained its form, the soldiers began to cautiously step forward. Who were they now? He couldn't shake the feeling that the battleground had shifted, not just in location, but in purpose. The monstrous celestial being was gone, but its echo lingered, vibrating through their limbs, igniting a flicker of resolve in the depths of despair. "Do you feel that?" a soldier whispered, glancing nervously at his comrades. They nodded, but it was more of a reflex than true comprehension. Shadows danced across their faces, illuminated now by a faint, ghostly light that began to appear in the distance. The commander focused on that light, squinting until recognizable shapes began to materialize, silhouettes of familiar figures lost in the haze. Friends. Fallen comrades. "No. It can't be," he stuttered, dread pooling in his gut as their features sharpened, etched with sorrow and regret. One of the figures stepped forward, a soldier he had led, now hauntingly translucent. The silent screams caught in his throat as he realized these were the souls of men he had once sent into battle. "What do you want?" he called out, his voice wavering, trembling like a leaf in a storm. More figures emerged, flooding the void with their presence. The air crackled with unspoken words, memories of laughter and friendship turning sour as the weight of guilt struck like a hammer. "You abandoned us," a voice rang out, distorted and yet achingly familiar. "No!" the commander cried, hands outstretched as though he could physically pull them back from the edge of grief. "I tried to protect you. I never wanted this." Panic surged within him, a wave crashing over the shore of his sanity. "It wasn't enough," another voice darted through, sharp as glass. "You thought glory was worth the cost. We were pawns in your game." The pressure intensified, squeezing his chest. It wasn't just them. It was everything. Choices haunted him, every decision echoing with the loss of life, the sacrifices made. The whispers transformed into a cacophony, a relentless storm of guilt swirling above his head, threatening to drag him under. Then, a deeper voice broke through the tumult, unwavering and resonant. "You face your reckoning now. But it's not too late." A flicker of light illuminated the scene, revealing the celestial warrior in a wind-whipped cloaked form. "You have the power to change your fates. Understand your failures, but rise above them. The choice lies before you." With that, the images of the fallen began to shimmer and shift, their faces slowly melting into the void. "What does that mean?" someone yelled, desperation spilling forth. "Forgive," the radiant figure replied, its sword pointing towards the fractured path ahead. "Forgive yourselves first. Only then will redemption inch closer." As the last echo faded, the soldiers stood collectively, a precipice of emotion taking hold. Hope collided with despair. Who could step forward? Who could take that leap into the unknown? In that moment, the ground beneath them buzzed with energy, crackling with potential. The void trembled, shifting as though responding to their inner turmoil. "Commander," a young soldier's voice broke through the stillness, shaky yet determined. "Are we ready to face what comes next?" The commander felt the weight of their eyes upon him, raw hope and fear dancing in sync. The shadows of their past loomed, but maybe, just maybe, the glimmers of light whispered promises of something greater. Together he breathed, voice steady. Now, as they took a halting step forward into the unknown. "We move together." But as they moved forward, a deep rumble echoed from the abyss behind them, a warning that the reckoning was far from over. What awaited them? Would it be salvation or a punishment yet unseen? The truth was just within reach, but the darkness was eager to swallow them whole. A single thought pulsed in every heart: they were not merely fighting against their past, the battle for their future had only just begun. Would they be strong enough to forge ahead into the light, or would they be lost forever in the shadows? They stepped forward, the ground beneath them trembling like a wounded beast. The air echoed with the remnants of whispers, hissing warnings that slid across their skin. As they moved into the shadowy expanse, glimpses of light revealed the outlines of a path, jagged, broken, yet pulsating with a strange allure. "Keep close," the commander barked, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. Each soldier clung to the others, a chain of humanity bound by shared trauma. But with each brave step, the ground roared behind them. The abyss was alive with unearthly rumblings, a reminder of the darkness they were leaving behind, and the uncertainty that lay ahead. A blinding flash of light flared, illuminating ancient runes carved into the stone around them, each swirling with an eerie glow. They pulsed rhythmically, almost as if alive, beckoning them forward. But beneath the beauty of the sight, unease gripped the commander. "What is this place?" he murmured. "It feels wrong," one soldier whispered, eyes wide, scanning the surroundings as their shadows danced on the walls like frightened children. Fleeting memories of past battles flooded the commander's mind. times when shadows had danced upon blood-soaked earth. "I've seen this before," he said, voice rising above the storm brewing inside him. "Where?" someone asked sharply, though the other soldiers were too lost in their own thoughts to notice. "In the tales of survival." "A place of judgment," he marveled, but his own words chilled him. "A place where the echoes of the fallen linger, waiting for what?" The trembling soldier pressed, eyes darting around, as if expecting a beast to leap from the darkness. "For the living to make amends." The rumbling grew louder, reverberating through the air like distant thunder. Chills raced down their spines. The commander felt the weight of their past decisions tightening like a vice around his chest. If this was indeed a place of reckoning, then who among them was willing to confront their own demons? Suddenly, a figure rushed past, a flash of white darting through the fog. A soldier screamed, "It's coming!" Panic flooded the group as they turned to see wisps of darkness sprouting from the cracks in the ground. They slithered and writhed, lashing out like serpents awakening from a deep slumber, hungry for revenge. "Fall back!" the commander shouted, raising his weapon, but what good would it do against the shadows of guilt? The soldiers stumbled, torn between fear and a desperate need to confront the truth. "Stay together!" he shouted again, though doubt crept into his voice. The glowing runes pulsed brighter with each twist of the shadows, illuminating torment and sorrow etched into the stone itself. "What if we can't face it?" a young soldier asked, eyes brimming with terror. "What if we lose ourselves?" A heavy silence fell, sharp enough to cut through the tension. They could either forge ahead and seek redemption or recoil back into the darkness of their mistakes. But as they hesitated, the shadows grew bolder, coiling around them like serpents drawing close for the kill. With a deep breath, the commander stepped into the light. "We cannot turn back now. We've already faced our demons. This is our chance to unlock what we thought lost forever." But the shadows surged hungrily at his declaration, and the whispering voices grew louder, threatening to drown out his resolve. He could feel the collective fear trembling at his back like a live wire threatened to spark. "We must find the strength together." The ground rumbled once more, sounding a dreadful retreat. Waves of darkness raked at their heels, spurred by their indecision. Just as he thought they would be consumed, the very air shimmered. A figure stepped out of the shadows, cloaked in obscurity. "Only one can rise. Who will take the leap?" The soldiers gasped. The flicker of hope danced dimly, overshadowed by the threat of evil coiling around them. The question hung in the air, heavy and charged as the shadows lunged forward. Would they sacrifice one among them to ensure the survival of the rest? The fate of their future stood resolved on a knife's edge. Would bravery reign, or would fear consume them all? They were at a crossroad, and every heart beat with the possibility of salvation or devastating loss. Who would dare step into the light? The air thickened, crackling with malevolence as the question resonated in the depths of their minds. Time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat lodged painfully in their throats. "Someone has to make a choice," the young soldier cried, his voice trembling like a leaf caught in a storm. Panic blurred the edges of his vision. He glanced around at the faces of his comrades, desperation wrestling with resolve. "We're stuck. We can't just stand here." "Yes, but at what cost?" the commander snapped, urgency sharpening his tone. "What if that one is someone we can't lose?" The weight of leadership pressed down on him, every soul behind him glaring back with both fear and hope. He could feel the darkness inching closer, curling like smoke around their ankles. The cloaked figure watched, a smile curling through the shadows. It was both inviting and terrifying, and with it, an air of finality settled over the group. Only one can rise. One who is willing to face the truth buried within. For a moment, silence engulfed them, broken only by the sinister whispers that wrapped around them like a cold embrace. "Let us be rational," a soldier interjected. "If one of us steps forward, it doesn't have to be the end, it might be the beginning. The rest can still escape." His words, though noble in intent, echoed hollow in the presence of looming dread. Each soldier felt a flicker of courage fight against the shadows creeping through their hearts. Their sins, whispered in the dark, wrapped around them, taunting them with memories of failures and regrets. Rationality? In a place like this? Another soldier spat, sweat glistening on his brow. We have to fight, not fracture. Fight? The commander raised an eyebrow. Against what? Our own fears? This is no enemy in the field, this is our past clawing at us, longing to drag us down. The shadows hissed, responding to the discord in their ranks. They began dancing chaotically, flickering between glimmers of light and dark. The ancient runes pulsed faster around them, as if the stones themselves were alive, feeding off their turmoil. Make the choice. The figure demanded, voice echoing like thunder in the confusion. Time is but a thin veil here, every moment you linger bears consequence. A soldier's face twisted in agony, tears glistening in her eyes. What if we choose wrong? She whispered, vulnerability stripping her of any armor she had. But what if we choose right? The young soldier challenged, the fire of rebellion igniting within him. We owe it to ourselves to those we've lost. Hesitation danced within his determination. I can do this. No. The commander's voice broke through the tension, startling the wavering resolve. We decide this together. It's not just one, it's all of us or none. But with that cry, the shadows surged forward, their tendrils reaching beneath the soldier's feet, pulling furiously, as if to prove they couldn't wait any longer. Look out! One soldier shouted, frantically trying to push back against the wave of darkness, but it was too late. The ones who dared, reached deeper into the cracks of their hearts, finding truths so long buried they had forgotten they existed. Whispers grew louder, guilt clawed desperately at their knees, revealing specters of choices made in the heat of battle, lives taken too soon. Then, just before the shadows fully enveloped them, a resonant voice broke forth near the shimmering light. Stand resolute. The figure spread its arms wide, cloaked in brilliant illumination. Each of you carries the chance to set things right, but the burden is heavy. Who among you will take the first step? With that declaration, the shadows drew back, if only slightly, a hesitant retreat, uncertain of the light that now flickered to life before them. Tension hung like smoke, thick and suffocating. The soldiers stood at the precipice of choice, the path ahead winding dark and uncharted. It was a moment that could shatter all they had built, or grant them a fragile flame of hope. In that blaze of revelation, one soldier began to whisper, maybe it's time to finally confront as the straining. Silence fell over them again, something shifted in the very air they breathed, the ground trembling with an unfathomable weight, and a new fear crept in, merging with the uncertainty of their choice. Would they face the darkness together or let one brave soul venture into the unknown? They edged closer to the brink, hearts racing as shadows loomed large once more. What awaited them on the other side of truth? The tension crackled like static as they stood on the edge of the unknown, shadows shifting restlessly, waiting with bated breath. The brighter light flared, casting halos around their heads, but it felt like a fragile, flickering flame against the tempest closing in. Someone has to step forward. The young soldier exclaimed again. His eyes darted among his comrades, each face reflecting a different struggle. We can't just be paralyzed by fear. One soldier shifted, stepping slightly away from the group. He lifted his chin, the flicker of hope fighting back the growing despair. If there's any chance we can break this curse, isn't it worth trying? I can't know, I won't watch us fall into this abyss. Don't you see? Another soldier yelled, voice thick with despair. That's exactly what it wants. It feeds off our fear and our decisions. With every heart-pounding moment, the shadows seemed to coil tighter around them, unnerving whispers echoing their thoughts back at them. Each soldier's past clawed to the surface, distress twisting their insides. One by one, memories surged unbidden, betrayal, momentary cruelty, eyes closed in silent acceptance of brutal realities. Pain burned like acid in their veins. The cloaked figure tightened its grip around the light, its smile no longer subtle, morphing into something more sinister. "Choose your champion, or I will do it for you," it hissed through clenched teeth, a dangerous edge lacing its tone. "What if we don't choose at all?" A soldier piped up, her voice trembling. "What if we just stand together?" It was a feeble question, and she knew it. Fear lingered in the pit of her stomach, prickling against the spine. "No!" the commander shouted, urgency ringing with authority. "We must not prolong this. If we don't act, the darkness will consume us." Silence draped over the soldiers once more, as the shadows shivered with malign excitement. An unbearable weight hung in the air, the ground felt unsteady beneath their feet. "Come on. We need to act. If we don't, we're all going to be lost in this nightmare." The young soldier's voice quaked. It was soft at first, but grew louder, a rallying cry against despair. Another soldier stepped forward, bolstered by his words. "I'll go. I'll face whatever's in that darkness. I've lived through things I cannot change. Maybe I can finally make a difference." But no sooner had he spoken, the shadows erupted in a cacophony of howls. They twisted and roared, as if the very essence of night clawed desperately against the light. The chilling laughter of the cloaked figure reverberated ominously. "Foolish. Do you think this is a choice you can make lightly? Each step into the truth opens doors you may regret." But something shifted deep within the gathered soldiers. The fear was palpable, yet among them thrummed a fierce determination. They could feel their collective courage intensifying, a stark flame against the crashing waves of darkness that threatened to drown them. Together, on the count of 3, the young soldier declared fiercely, clenching his fists. 1, 2. But before he could utter the final word, the shadows surged, feeding on the tension. One soldier cried out in pain as the darkness closed its grip around him, sucking the very essence of his resolve. "No!" echoed throughout the ranks, the group pivoting toward the horror of what they saw. He was trapped, a hollow shell, eyes wide in terror. "Make your choice." The figure screamed, voice slashing through the chaos as if cutting the fabric of time itself. Their hearts raced. Would they risk everything or let fear claim them? The ground shook violently, a final reminder that time was running out. Decisions had to be made. Courage had to be summoned. "Now!" the commander shouted, raising his arm toward the flickering light. "Let us face it together." And just like that, with a surge fueled by desperation and defiance, they lunged forward, ready to confront the darkness head-on. But as they stepped closer to the edge, the darkness uncoiled with a vengeance, revealing an even darker truth that lay hidden beneath. What awaited them just beyond that threshold? The soldiers surged forward, hearts pounding in unison, their collective will igniting a spark against the consuming darkness. But with each brave step they took, the shadows seemed to pulse hungrily, drawing closer and closer, eager to ensnare the unsuspecting soldiers. A deafening roar erupted as the darkness writhed like a living entity, its tendrils snapping at their heels. Sideways glances exchanged between comrades suddenly felt heavy with unvoiced questions. How could they trust in each other when trust mingled so easily with fear? "Keep moving," the commander shouted, his voice cutting through the tempest. "Stick together. We're stronger as one." But his rallying cry trembled, even he felt the weight of despair pressing against his chest. Just then, a blinding flash illuminated the path ahead. The cloaked figure stood at the center of the light, no longer hooded, revealing a face that warped and shifted between forms. It wasn't just darkness, it was their past. Mortality and regret danced in every flicker of that visage, taunting the soldiers with pain they wished to forget. "Do you see this?" the figure taunted, its voice dripping with mockery. "All those choices you made, painted in shades of horror and shame. This is your legacy." The young soldier staggered back. "No. We're more than that. He shouted, though his voice cracked with uncertainty. An echo of his childhood betrayal whispered sharply in his ear, an echo that now seemed to claw at his heart. As they pressed on, the air crackled with an energy that was both exhilarating and terrifying. The shadows ripped away at their edges, straining against the unrelenting light that appeared to almost seep from their very souls. The soldier who had been claimed a mere shell of what he once was now hovered at the periphery, eyes glossy and unseeing. Desperation clawed at the shoulders of those who had once called him friend. "Fight it!" a soldier shrieked, desperation saturating her voice. "You have to fight." But it fell on deaf ears as the shadows ensnared more, a chorus of anguish that crescendoed stunningly, reverberating in their bones. "No! We will not lose any more men." The commander's voice had taken on an edge, a feverish pitch spiraling upwards like smoke in the wind. "Together!" the young soldier yelled once again, his voice rising over the howls of anguish. "This is our chance. Don't let the darkness win." In that moment, resolve bloomed once more. They clasped hands, each grasp radiating warmth against the cold terror threatening to consume them. The light surged brighter, a beacon amidst the encroaching night. Yet just as they thought they forged an impenetrable bond, the shadows whispered secrets that sliced through their unity, a deadly revelation. The cloaked figure had promised them release, but only through sacrifice. A choice none could be prepared for. One soldier felt the winds shift, the burden of anguish pressing down on her. "What if one of us must remain?" she murmured, face pale as she locked eyes with her comrades. The younger soldier's heart jolted. "No. We can find another way. There must be another way." The figure cackled, its laughter an unsettling melody intertwined with dread. "Ah, but choices have consequences, don't they?" Thick silence enveloped them, thick with the weight of the decision they all knew was looming. The ground beneath them trembled once more, an ominous reminder that the darkness would not wait forever. "We need to know the price," the commander shouted, desperation flooding his tone. "We need an answer now." But even as he spoke, the shadows crawled closer, consuming the very air they breathed, twisting beyond comprehension. They could feel the tension rising, riding on the tip of a razor's edge. What truth awaited them if they chose to sacrifice? If one soldier had to remain, who would it be, and would they truly be willing to pay the price? The echoes of their choices hung in the air like a noose, tightening. It could end with salvation or ruin. With their world spiraling toward a decision none were prepared for, reality twisted. The darkness pulsed with a sinister adrenaline. Who would rise to face the shadows standing between them and their salvation? And suddenly, within the viscous darkness, a single silhouette began to separate itself, reaching for the light, but who was it, and would it finally steal away their hope? The figure emerged from the shadows, slowly revealing features, but the promise of light strained against the voice echoing through the darkness. "It's me," came a soft, almost ethereal whisper, the words weaving through the air, wrapping around them like a ghostly embrace. The soldiers squinted, trying to make sense of the sight before them. "Is it?" the commander called out, doubt carving his words. "Is it you?" As the silhouette stepped closer, the resemblance was undeniable. It was their lost comrade, the one who had faded into the void just days before. Yet his eyes glimmered with an unsettling sheen, reflecting a world of torment. "You must understand," he murmured. "I chose to be here, to help you." Unnerved, the soldiers shifted uneasily, glancing at one another. They heard murmurs, soft exchanges that turned heavy with distrust. "We thought you were gone," one soldier finally said, his voice trembling slightly. "What have you become?" The figure's smile was a grotesque mixture of hope and horror. "I am a bridge between light and dark." And this he gestured widely, encompassing the swirling shadows. "This is a gateway. They demand a sacrifice. It's the way it was always meant to be." "No!" the young soldier protested, anger burning in his chest. We refuse to be pawns in their game. Do you really want to defy the darkness? The figure challenged, his voice deepening, echoing with a sinister resonance. It will swallow you whole for that betrayal, and you might just be the next casualty of this war. Gasps filled the air, and shoulders tightened. The air ran cold, a shiver slithering down their spines. The ominous shadows whispered once more, carrying with them taunts that mingled with their own inner demons. "We can't trust you," shouted another soldier, desperation thickening the air around them. "You left us." "Did I?" He took a step closer, his presence demanding attention. "Or did I save you? What is one life compared to many, and who is to say I would be lost forever?" The commander stood firm, his instincts screaming. "This isn't your decision to make." Yet the young soldier's heart raced. Could it be true? What if they could bring their friend back, not just physically, but to reclaim his spirit? The sacrifice weighed heavily, but so did the chance to save the others. "What if I'm the price?" The ghostly figure broke the silence. "What if I let myself return to the dark willingly? Imagine that one life for many." "So simple," the figure continued relentlessly. "You only need to agree. You trust each other, don't you? But do you dare trust the uncertainty of your choices?" Frantic breaths gripped the group. The shadows seemed to pulsate, eager. They were hungry for despair, thriving on their indecision. "Don't listen!" cried the soldier who had shouted for courage before. "He is tainted by darkness. This is manipulation." But the temptation hung there, seductive and weighty, a fork in the road forcing them to explore the darkness within. More shadows writhed, slipping closer, encircling them. Choking whispers filled their heads, distorting into a haunting symphony. "Time is running out. Choose now." In that moment of wavering trust, a looming dread settled deep within each soldier's core. The shadows came alive, curling more tightly, suffocating them with anticipation. The past they carried a heavy burden of guilt materialized, striking their hearts. "They won't wait," the figure warned, and despair seeped through the cracks of their unity. An uneasy silence settled, broken only by the drumming of their hearts. The lingering question remained, sharp and wounding: who would ultimately bear the price? The answer hovered just out of reach, so painfully close yet agonizingly far. Suddenly, from the darkness, a thunderous crack resonated, a warning shrewdly piercing through. They were running out of time. With shadows encroaching, the flicker of hope faded. Would they heed the call or be lost forever? And in that split second, a movement stirred within the shadows, a collective pulse that threatened to engulf them whole. But could any of them muster the courage to claim the light? The shadows hissed, twisting with restless energy. Panic hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The soldiers glanced at one another, uncertainty etching deeper lines into their brows. They were at a crossroads. One path promised rescue, the other, a descent into madness. "What is the price, then?" the commander finally asked, his voice strained. The air crackled with tension as the figure grinned, a flash of something almost predatory in his gaze. "Merely a choice," he replied, his tone unsettlingly calm. "Just one simple choice. Your bond, your unity, it all hinges on who you are willing to sacrifice. Will you throw away the one for the many?" The young soldier's heart hammered in his chest. It should never come to this. He yelled, desperation clawing at his voice. "We've fought too hard to lose another comrade. Fighting is futile if you don't address the darkness lurking within you," the figure countered, stepping closer. "Don't you see? It demands blood. It feasts on doubt and fear. And every moment you hesitate, it grows stronger." In that moment, the shadows encircled them tighter, feeding on their inner turmoil, becoming a tangible force that constricted their breathing. "We need to decide," another soldier murmured, his voice barely rising above the whispers. A chill swept through the group, their breaths catching in their throats, mingling with the shadows. The darkness promised pain, but it also thrummed with a sinister allure. With every flicker of uncertainty, it coiled tighter, its hunger palpable. Suddenly, a shrill scream ruptured the silence. All eyes turned just in time to see one of their own, a soldier spiraling back against the shadows, gripped by an unseen force. "It's taking him!" someone shouted, a voice filled with terror laced in disbelief. "No!" the commander shouted, making a move toward the writhing mass. "Pull him back!" But the shadows laughed, a cacophony of voices that echoed like a death knell. "Your choices will determine his fate and yours," it cried. Fear exploded among them. The young soldier felt paralyzed, torn between the horror playing out before him and the profound promise of the figure's words. Could one life, perhaps even his own, heal the permeating darkness that threatened to swallow them whole? "Decide," the figure urged, his ethereal form shimmering in the dim light. "Will you offer yourself to save him? Will you defy the void?" Heart pounding wildly, the soldier stepped forward, determination igniting within him. "I'll give myself. I'll do it. Just save him." "No!" shouted the commander in sudden disbelief. "You can't. Don't be deceived." But in that moment, the shadows surged, a tidal wave of terror that swept over the gathering, pulsing with an energy of its own. Then, with shocking intensity, the darkened figure locked eyes with the soldier. A smile broke across his face, twisted yet somehow serene. Then the choice is made. A shriek pierced through the night, echoing through the darkness as the shadows expanded hungrily. The very ground trembled beneath their feet as the soldier felt an inexorable pull towards the figure, and just like that, a blinding light erupted from the center of the chaos, illuminating the horror all around them. Helplessly, the soldiers shielded their eyes as screams mingled with the whispers. When the light faded, 3 souls had vanished. "What have you done?" the commander cried, voice cracking, a mix of rage and sorrow curling around desperation. The shadows laughed, their grip still tightening, leaving the soldiers trembling on the cusp of a decision that would change everything. "More will come to fill the void," the figure said softly, firmly. "The true sacrifice will soon reveal itself." A cold blast of uncertainty flooded the soldiers. As they regained their senses, they felt a deep sense of foreboding. Everything hinged on the next choice they would have to face. Suddenly, the shadows began to retreat, leaving behind whispers thick with threat. "The darkness will return. Prepare yourselves." The soldier's heart raced. Questions screamed in the silence. What would they face next? And would they survive it this time? In the distance, a flicker of movement teased their vision, hinting at the arrival of something even more sinister. Were they truly safe, or was this merely the calm before another storm? The darkness hovered like a thick veil, but within the depths of their anguish flickers of courage sparked anew. They stood on the edge of the abyss, organized by fleeting moments of defiance. The grim specter had claimed 3 lives in its snare, and as the soldiers felt the heavy air compress, one thought surged collectively: they couldn't let fear define their path. "Stand together!" the commander shouted, brows knitted as he searched the weary faces around him. "We have lost, but we are still here. We are still alive." The shadows writhed like snakes, hissing under their breath, taunting, waiting to swallow them whole once again. Yet deep down, a fire ignited within the group, clawing its way to the surface. Shivers coursed through their bodies as the luminous runes began to ripple along the ground, pulsating with a warmth that felt like hope. A young soldier stepped forward, confidence settling upon his shoulders. "We might have faltered, but every one of us carries a strength untapped. Our choice can bring the light back into our lives." He looked straight into the eyes of his comrades, searching for unity in shared pain, and he found it, reflected back like shimmering gold. "You speak truth," an older soldier echoed, fists clenching. "This darkness breathes our regret. But we face it together, we face ourselves. We merge our scars into strength." As the shadows coiled tighter, teasing at their resolve, the flickering glow of the runes became more radiant, creating a path through the darkness. It felt alive, as if it beckoned them to embrace the power lying dormant within. One by one, they followed the lead of the brave young soldier, forming a chain of humanity locked in shared suffering ready to reclaim their lives. "Hold tight," the commander urged, raising his voice above the tempest. "None of us will break. We rise together." The shadows shrank momentarily, as if taken aback by their united front. In that ephemeral pause, a flicker of confidence shimmered among them, revealing glimpses of the past haunting their hearts, each memory a reminder of fortitude lost. With a collective intake of breath, they charged forward, stepping towards the illuminated path of runes. The moment they crossed the threshold, a radiant light erupted like a sun breaking over the horizon, bathing them in its warmth and blinding brilliance. In the explosion of light, they felt the weight of their burdens lifting, a cathartic release that intertwined joy and sorrow, strength and vulnerability. They saw visions of their past, lost comrades reaching out not in blame, but in solidarity, a reminder of their shared humanity beyond the losses. "The choice is," the cloaked figure wailed from the shadows, its voice twisted with rage. "Your brotherhood cannot save you. You were meant to be fractured." But the soldiers held steadfast, rooting their feet upon the ground. With synchronized breaths, they reached out, hands clasped together, creating a barrier against the oncoming storm. As they stood united, the shadows lunged, but met a brilliant wall of light that protected them. In that blinding brilliance, the old soldier shouted, "This is our legacy. We choose this struggle today, we have nothing left to fear." The shadows, enraged, writhed and retreated as light pierced through their inky confines. The soldiers pressed onward, chanting words of courage, a symphony striking the heart of the void. "Our choices do not define our worth. We make amends, not just for our fallen comrades, but for ourselves." The cloaked figure crumbled under the pressure, its form swirling in abject desperation. "No. You cannot escape me. The price has yet to be paid." Shadows lashed back, but they were met with an unyielding light. With one final push, they broke through, and the shadows erupted in shrieks of defeat as the celestial warrior materialized before them, ablaze with light and purpose. The air crackled like a live wire, reverberating through them with a sense of triumph. "Together, you have broken the grip of darkness." The warrior boomed, voice resonating through each soldier's being. "You wield the power of your choices, and in unity, your potential thrives, lighting the pathway ahead." In that overwhelming moment of triumph, as the reminder of their fallen echoed not as regrets but as strength unshackled, they felt a surge of hope course through them. As dawn broke through the horizon, spilling gold and warmth across the battlefield, they realized, they had led themselves to redemption, illuminating not just their past, but the potential of their collective futures. Tears flowed freely, but they were tears of catharsis. Each soldier had faced their own shadows, and together they emerged into the light, fortified by the love of those lost and the promise that every choice henceforth would be made in honor of the fallen. With a newfound sense of purpose, centered in one another, they breathed deeply. The air felt rich, alive with possibility. "We are more than our fears," the commander declared, voice steady and resolute. "We carry the tales of loss, but with each heartbeat, we steer the stories that lie ahead." And as their bond tightened, they marched forward, ready for whatever awaited them, welcoming each new dawn as they carved their destinies in unity and light. Now it's your turn. If you enjoyed this epic conclusion, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button to help our community grow. Flood the comments section with your thoughts on the ending. Your reactions matter. And don't forget to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how bravery triumphs over darkness. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait even one more second. Every action counts, you're part of this journey now.